Chapter 4, Proteins. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein. Amino acids are joined in specific sequence to form specific proteins. Peptide bonds join the amino acids together. When there are two peptides together, we call that a dipeptide. When there are three amino acids, we call that a tripeptides. Different types of protein are found in different foods. For example, casein in milk and dairy products, albumin in egg whites, and gluten in wheat products. After being digested and absorbed, amino acids are reassembled to make specific proteins the body needs. And proteins can fold and unfold. So proteins change their structure depending on what you do to them. For example, proteins can change their structure when heat is added to them, like when you cook an egg. A raw egg is liquidy, and a cooked egg is solid. After being digested and absorbed, amino acids are reassembled to make specific products the body needs. Proteins contain carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, just like carbohydrates do, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, and the difference is proteins contain nitrogen. So proteins contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. We have two kinds of proteins, indispensable or essential. The body cannot make those. Dispensable, non-essential. A healthy body can make those. So indispensable or essential proteins, we have to get those from our diet. The body cannot make those. Dispensable, non-essential proteins, a healthy body can make those. We also have conditionally indispensable, conditionally essential proteins that are needed under certain conditions, like illness, physiologic stress, or among premature infants. Phenylketonuria, PKU. An individual with PKU lacks the enzyme needed to convert phenylalanine to tyrosine. So tyrosine becomes an indispensable amino acid for someone with PKU. And phenylalanine may rise to toxic levels in the blood. The PKU diet: avoid all foods that contain aspartame, like sugar-free pudding, sugar-free jello, sugar-free candy or gum, and diet sodas. And people with PKU have to drink a special medical formula that is phenylalanine free. And that formula makes up the majority of their diet. Moving on to protein balance. Balance is the intake and output of substances in the body to maintain the equilibrium necessary for health. We have catabolism. Catabolism means breaking down large substances into smaller building blocks. So you can't spell catabolism without cat. And it's like when I have my big orange cat Dreamsicle and he breaks a vase. The vase smashes into little pieces. When we break down something big into little pieces, that's called catabolism. Anabolism is building large substances from smaller parts. Anabolism is building things up. It's the opposite of catabolism. In catabolism, we're tearing things down. And in anabolism, we're building things up. We're building large substances from smaller parts. Deamination, the part of the amino acid that contains nitrogen, is removed, converted to ammonia, and excreted as urea in the urine. The remaining carbohydrates will be used to make glucose or converted into another amino acid. And healthy individuals have an amino acid pool. That we can get amino acids from. Nitrogen balance, 6.25 grams of dietary protein equals 1 gram of urinary nitrogen. If we have a positive nitrogen balance, the body holds on to more nitrogen than it excretes. And we have a positive nitrogen balance in times of growth, when we're building tissue. Infancy, childhood, adolescence, pregnancy, and lactation. People who have been ill or malnourished and are being built back up, they have a positive nitrogen balance. In negative nitrogen balance, the body excretes more nitrogen than it retains. Negative nitrogen balance, so we're losing more nitrogen than we're taking in. And we get into that negative balance. We see negative nitrogen balance in illness, malnutrition, and starvation, kwashiorkor. In kwashiorkor, the calories from carbohydrate and fat are adequate. The person is taking in carbohydrate and fat, but the person does not get enough protein. Now, kwashiorkor is an African word. It means the disease the first baby gets when the second baby comes along. And the first baby moves off of mother's milk and onto a weak cereal drink. So the first baby has calories from carbohydrate and fat, and those are adequate, but the first baby is not getting enough protein. So that's kwashiorkor. Calories from carbohydrate and fat are adequate. The person does not get enough protein. Negative nitrogen balance causes the loss of muscle tissue, impairment of body organs and functions, and increased susceptibility to infection. Negative nitrogen balance can cause growth retardation in children and may be fatal. The functions of protein are tissue building. Protein is in every cell in the body. Proteins exert osmotic pressure to control water balance throughout the body. Proteins are buffering agents. They can release or absorb excess acid in the body. The normal pH of blood is 7.35 to 7.45. And proteins are buffering agents to maintain that pH within those very, very narrow limits of 7.35 to 7.45. Proteins act as enzymes, transport proteins and hormones. Insulin and glucagon are peptide hormones. And proteins function in the immune system as lymphocytes and antibodies. Protein supply 4 calories per gram.